Hey folks, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds, hanging out with this nerd.
Nathan Nerdarch.
Let's talk about Planar Adventures in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. Jump down to the description below where you can find Nerdarchy, the newsletter, game weekly tips, as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy. So a lot of dungeon masters will ask us, either through the Nerdarchy Gmail or comments or whatever, is like, I want to do Planar Adventures for my players in 5e D&D. When should I start doing it? How can I start doing it? So we came up with some ideas, and we've got like 4 hooks that you can just throw out there to get your players into a Planar adventure, whether you're playing Planescape or just Forgotten Realms, Eberron, doesn't matter. You want to take them off the prime material plane and adventure somewhere else.
So you could always invite them to a place with transport included. That's
Yeah.
a nice way to get people. They're like, oh, free trip, I'll go.
It could be as simple as a magic item that teleports them off this world to another world. And when we say planar, it could be like almost like Mars, or it could be the elemental plane of fire, or one of the other ones. Now, granted, first level you may not want to go to the elemental plane of fire without some extra protection. You're going to need a really high SPF if you want to do that one at first level. So there's also maybe, with that invitation, a ship shows up, like a spell jamming vessel. That would be another way to have them get there, or you could use a gate teleportation. There's a bunch of ways to actually get them there. And we'll get into a little bit of that later.
While they're in an inn, an old man in the corner asks them if they'd like to go on an adventure. And there'll be treasure involved. Oh, yeah. Let's go.
Boom, pop, they're automatically there. The other idea is, your players, they just awaken somewhere. They don't know how they got there. They're in a strange environment. And you know what? Toto, we're not in Kansas anymore. They've just awakened. Maybe they have their gear, maybe they don't. Depends on how nice of a DM you are. But you can start describing the alien environment. And even maybe they look at the sky above and they're not seeing the sky that they're used to. They're clearly someplace very far from where they've been. And even like if you were on the same world, the same plane, if you were to look at the sky, now you might be able to distinguish, oh, I'm not where I was before, but you might go, well, that is still the same sky. But you could do something different where they look up and instantly realize this is not the sky they're used to looking at. They've never seen this before.
Yeah, there's either things flying in it, they can see the stars during the day, or some kind of thing that puts them off the path of saying, oh, this is just a regular place. I would say another way is they could always have been there. If you're going to start a campaign, you could always say, well, you awaken, it's not an alien place. It's not really an alien place at all because it's always been there for you.
Yeah, you could definitely do the idea of, and if you don't want to tell your players, it's a normal world, it's your homebrew world, whatever, they kind of know what it's all about. But then things start to happen and they become aware of certain things to let them know that they're actually someplace else than what they thought. Everything they thought that was truth before was actually a lie and has been fabricated from, like The Matrix. Or also, what was the Jim Carrey movie where the Truman Show?
Yeah, the Truman Show.
Where he's he's actually like a form of entertainment, but everybody knows but him. So you can do some things like that and have their planar adventure start without them actually even knowing it.
Yeah, and then things start to kind of unravel from the narrative of this is just a regular house and this is just a regular place. They might start seeing shadowy, strange creatures at the corner of their eye. They might see creatures that they've never seen before because of things coming from elsewhere into their area, that kind of thing.
Now, we actually have a particular place, another plane in mind, right? And the other way for them to be there is they could be hired, they could be brought on as help, or maybe they've always worked there. And this is where the adventure is going to kind of start. So in a previous video, we talked about creating this planar zoo. Well, we went and did it. We created the zoo.
Yes.
We had Megan R. Miller. She's the one that did the write-up off of the video we did. So that invitation they get to is this zoo. They come as guests. That place where they've always been and they awaken in is the zoo, and they start realizing things aren't quite right.
They're part of the exhibit, the naturalized exhibit.
The natural humanoid exhibit. So there, and then the other idea is they were captured for the exhibit, and now they're just in a strange place. So all of these kind of tie to the this extra planar zoo we had created. And in that zoo, you're also going to find some other things that are going on, right? There's some cool new monsters that are also part of the exhibit. And there's also some cool magic items. See, the problem with keeping intelligent and sapient creatures are they're curious, they figure things out, they're smart,
They try to escape.
and they try and escape. So what our intrepid extraplanar zookeepers did was they created an environment that had natural adversities to it in order to keep the exhibits occupied. And even then, they knew that wasn't enough because eventually the exhibits would figure out that there's other things, these access tunnels that the zookeepers use to tend to all of the creatures that inhabit the zoo. So that became another problem. But they came up with a solution. They solved that problem. They redressed all these access passages and tunnels to look like dungeons, and they introduced the concept of the dungeon into the environment. So also with like myth and lore, if you assemble all these keys, you will find this beautiful oasis where you can live out the rest of your days with nothing, wanting for nothing and having everything. So the adventure is kind of like baked into it for them.
It's like every every video game player's dream of like, oh, I get to play in this. That's great. The dungeon's here. I expected it to be here. It's got 10 levels. Excellent. I'll conquer this dungeon and I'll move on to the next one. And eventually I'll figure everything out.
Right, and that works great for the idea of if you were captured or if you kind of, awaken in the Matrix, right? And you're in the know now, so you kind of like figure it out and you can try and escape. But the other ones where you're invited, like it may seem really cool as you look at the exhibits and you see monsters and scary creatures. But then all of a sudden you come across the humanoid exhibit. What do you do? That's a moral dilemma. Like, is it okay to keep sentient creatures in cages, even if they don't know they're in cages?
It's a big rooming cage. They don't even know. There's no exterior like, this is our trap, They're just hanging out, doing their normal thing.
So what are your adventurers going to do? What are your players going to do? Are they going to try and break the creatures out? Are they going to free them? Are they going to reason with the zookeepers and try and convince them that this is the right, this is wrong, and we should do something else? Are they going to leave and come back with help? Will they be able to find it easily, without the invitation to get there?
Will the people in the exhibit be so angry that this person's disrupted, telling them some kind of vicious lie about their reality that they get attacked?
Well, that's
the
true
heroes
too.
get attacked by the people they're saving.
That's true. Will they even believe it?
Yeah.
So that's very important. And then the other idea is the zookeepers actually hire you to go out, procure different exhibits, whether they're monsters. And again, you could have the same quandary when you discover they're also keeping sentient creatures, or maybe you don't care. You're just the bounty hunter. You bring back whatever they ask for. The other idea is that you're actually a zookeeper, right? Your adventuring party are zookeepers. We have the race of the zookeepers that was made up so you can actually play one if you wanted to, which would be kind of cool. By the way, if you haven't figured it out by now, this is one of our next Patreon rewards that we're offering up next month. You'll be able to go get it over at the Nerdarchy Patreon. And depending on what level you get into, determines what you get, which you can check that out. We'll have a link in the description. But we've got all kinds of cool things like a Physm. The Physm is one of the new monsters. It's a floating, huge slug-like creature that eats and expels acid. There's the Beast of Many Arms, very mysterious. We've got a obsidian crawler. Think huge giant crab made of obsidian.
Yeah, I like that one the best, actually.
That was pretty cool. The Aurora Wraith, which is a creature made of pure radiant energy. All of these are exhibits that you can find at the Extraplanar Zoo. We have a Topaz Swarm, which is another one that's really cool. And then we actually have the zookeepers themselves. Now we also have our friend or foe, which is Mkatha. He is the being that is in charge of the humanoid exhibit. And he's got a lot of personality, and he's been kind of set up to fail, but I think he's doing all right. Which there's all kinds of great plot hooks in this adventure, as well as the race of zookeepers that you could actually play one yourself if you wanted to. The zookeepers are these super tall, skinny beings with forearms and conical shaped heads. Then, while you're at the zoo, you might want to swing by the gift shop, because what would a good zoo be without a gift shop where you can find
The plushies.
one of the humanoid plushies that can animate and do your plushy bidding. There's also the map that can record locations in the zoo for you and tell you how to get there. The best part about the map is it requires a sleight of hand check to refold it up.
Yeah, I thought at first, I was like, it just seems strange. I was like, oh, no, I get it now.
And then we have the keys of danger, which are they are wondrous items that require attunement. Each one does a different effect. They operate on charges. Again, it's a lot of fun. I think this is stuff.
Supposedly, something special happens if you have enough of the keys.
Yes, it's baked into the lore and myth of the zoo for the humanoid exhibit.
Yeah.
These are all things you can go check out on the Nerdarchy Patreon. Hopefully, you'll find them as entertaining as we did. Megan R. Miller did an awesome job. Our artist Nelson came up with some really fun art for it. All in all, it's about 20 pages long. You can find the link down below in the description. While you're down there, hit the comments. Tell us what you think. How do you like this idea? Is it something you would play in your game? While you're at it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
You can also check us out over at nerdarchy.com.
So until next time,
Stay nerdy.